Welcome back to Lantern Insights. Today we're going to be taking another look at some games with the Tron Lantern variant. So I'm still not totally sold on this deck, but I think one advantage that it does have over more traditional builds of Lantern is its Amulet Titan matchup. We actually think the Titan matchup is much better with this version, and I was able to play this version to some success against Lantern much more consistently than many other versions. So this hand here on the draw is pretty solid. Like we've talked about before, you don't need to have all three Tron lands in order to have a functioning hand with this deck. We kind of have our turn 1 and turn 2 plays here, ability to make constructs. Yeah, we do draw Bridge here, which is going to be pretty good. Obviously, them leading on Saga, we know they're on Titan, and milling Titan as much as possible is always beneficial. Obviously, this hand is going to be a bit slower against a lot of their draws, however, Spellskite can definitely help us. And the fact that they are relying on Urza's Saga to get Amulet is very relevant here, as it means there's less pressure on us to answer one early, and gives us a few more turns to set up. We are going to play a second Tron land here, because if we draw Mine, we can play Karn plus something else next turn, whereas if we played Urza's Saga, there are some matchups where we would want Urza's Saga and its constructs here, but I don't think this is one of them. And so Spellskite can disrupt them a little bit, very dependent on kind of which draw they go for. Obviously, it's not usually going to stop them because they they know it's on board, but it is going to slow them down. And I think that's what they realized here. They end up just passing through, so I don't know if they tapped wrong for Titan, but we'll take any extra time we can get. Obviously, milling them extra. Yeah, I don't know exactly why they tapped their lands there. I guess they just floated the wrong colors for Dryad, or realized that they only had one green off of Simic Growth Chamber, and so they weren't able to play Dryad, I guess. However, this is going to be some concern to us, as Valakut provides one of their ways that they can win around Ensnaring Bridge. And so because main deck we don't have any removal for Dryad, this does pose a significant threat to us. Now, it will take them a little bit in order to develop enough lands, but long game, it's just another reason why Amulet is so good against us, and it is because of just their multifaceted ways of attacking us. So here, obviously, they're going to play some extra lands off their Dryad, get the Valakut back in play. I would guess that their 2 cards in hand aren't lands, otherwise they likely would have held the bounce land and just kind of played them out. So it does mean that we're likely to face pretty consecutive action here. And we do draw an Urza's Mine, so a turn late, but still grabbing Karn here. And we elect to go for Liquimetal Coating. I think if we take a look at our sideboard, we have 4 mana available to us, so you could go for Stonebrain here. I think it was probably a slightly better line. Just go Stonebrain, remove the Titans, and I think you're in pretty good shape. Other than that, there's not really too much you could get. You could get a Lantern. Their 2 cards in hand are action, but you can keep them off more action by getting Lantern here. However, Coating. Also, you could get Sundering Titan and cast it next turn. That's actually a slight spoiler alert, but that is what we do, is we get a Sundering Titan. And with Dryad, Sundering Titan, you just blow up all of their lands, as each of them are each of the colors. So I don't know if Coating was totally correct to get here, but it is the line that we went for. Anyway, continuing to mill them. I'm just going to play out the Coating here. One thing to note is we are a bit stuck on colored mana, as we're unable to cast this Stirrings in hand. The reason I got Coating was to take them off one of their lands next turn, hopefully just minimizing their mana. But like I talked about, grabbing Stonebrain was probably correct there. But it is important to learn from mistakes. You get better by playing the deck a bunch. So next time I'm in this situation, it'll be Stonebrain I'm grabbing, not Liquimetal Coating. No one's going to be able to play any deck in Modern really perfectly the first time. So they do play a Colossus here. Now they do only have 2 cards in hand, which is very useful. Colossus obviously is much stronger when you have a lot of cards in hand. MTG Goldfish kind of made a video when it first came out with like 52 lands and Cultivator Colossus, but with this here, with only 2 cards in hand, they're likely not going to be able to draw a ton, and that is what we see. They just put 1 land into play, and which is basically the dream Colossus. Like the way for them for it to work was just Summoner's Pact and just chain Colossus together. Importantly, if we had grabbed Sundering Titan with Karn, I don't think they go for this line because it does just leave them dead to Sundering Titan. As I think if we have that Sundering Titan revealed, they never go for this line. So we're just gonna grab. We got a Lantern, although it doesn't matter. We grab Sundering Titan off Karn, blow everything up, and because of their Summoner's Pact, they are unable to win. Karn is a very strong card against Amulet, just being able to get so many answers. Additionally, is shutting off the One Ring is very strong in their deck. That's kind of most of what it does, is just finding those flexible answers, as usually it can tutor twice. If it's like if we're not dead, Karn is a double tutor, but otherwise it's shutting off Ring, grabbing any sideboard hate that we need, and they concede here as they won't be able to pay for their pact on their upkeep. Yeah, our sideboard, we have a lot of answers for them in the sideboard. Kind of what you want to get first with Karn. Obviously, Sundering Titan, very good option. Getting Ensnaring Bridge can be very relevant. Then Stonebrain, I think very useful. Torpor Orb, and the other one that we got, Liquid Metal Coating. Just repeatedly shutting them off lands. But we got game 1. We still have 2 more to get, so let's get into the next game. Obviously, when you're sideboarding with this version, most of your slots are dedicated to Karn, and so the only kind of real sideboard change is Dismember, mainly to hit Dryad. Obviously it doesn't kill a Titan, but killing Dryad is very relevant, so we did bring them in. You may notice we're on the play here after we won game 1. Game 2 is just a lot of mulligans. We had to mulligan very low and didn't really play a real game, so I just elected not to show it. We had to mulligan kind of too aggressively to really do anything. Here, obviously, we start on a mulligan. This hand, I think it's just kind of slow, clunky, doesn't really do much against them. Like, sure, Saga, I mean, it basically doesn't do anything. This hand is a lot nicer. We got turn 3 Tron, just looking for a payoff. And yeah, so we're going to keep what gets us Tron. And then we do have Chromatic Star, can hopefully filter some mana into Stirrings, find something useful here. They do lead on the Saga Amulet draw, which is basically their fastest draw. We're just going to count on getting Tron here and hope that this Stirrings can, hopefully Karn would be our best payoff, but there are a few things we could find here. They play a Curse Totem, so I guess they were worried about Spellskite. We did play it game 1, and it did cause some disruption in terms of slowing them down and like not being able to give Titan haste, but definitely a very interesting sideboard card to have. Just shuts down Spellskite, so we're not too worried about it. We get the Mine to complete Tron, and we of course top deck a Mine nicely, which is kind of funny, but we'll see if we can. We actually draw into a Karn off the Chromatic Star, but I don't think it changes much of what we get here. And here we get a Sphere. I think with this hand, we're all in on kind of Karn doing something, so we don't really have a ton of space to get Shredder here. I don't think it would be super relevant. If you look to our sideboard, the kind of things we would get, I think you could have made an argument that we should have not played the Sphere or the Stirrings and just gone Karn into Torpor Orb, and I think that would also be a reasonable play. I mean, that was obviously I'm still learning play patterns with Karn in Lantern, but I think the Torpor Orb here would be a good card to get, just slowing down Titan if they have it, forcing them to attack with it, and then I can Orb and then Bridge next turn, so kind of have 2 turns to slow them down. But just again grab the coating here, as if they don't kind of win this turn, I'll be able to start keeping them off lands. Now, I will say this plan isn't as great into them, as they are usually able to go off with like 1 land the turn they play it. So maybe not the best strategy, but was the one I went for. And here they were on a hand that was going to try to get a ring out pretty quickly. And these are hands Titan can keep, and Karn is very good against them. Like I don't think it was wrong for them to go for the ring early. Like it's a great card engine if I don't have Karn. I mean, they did see Karn in game 1, so they could have mulliganed more aggressively, I guess. But I mean, I'm not always going to have Karn. And yeah, I mean, we shut down the ring here. We're going to be able to start hitting their lands. Like yes, they can go off all in 1 turn, and we do use that sphere we played out to grab use stirrings, and we grab bridge here. Lantern isn't as useful in this scenario, as we're kind of more focused on just a general Karn value plan here. Start blowing up lands. Go after Valakut first. They could bounce Teleria West, so that could be an argument to go for it. Valakut is better if they're able to develop a lot of lands. And here we're going to downtick this Karn, grab the Stone Brain, use the Stone Brain, and then play the other Karn. So we take out their Titans. We do see that they have 1 in hand plus Force of Vigor. So I think it was, I mean, definitely some argument here for them playing Force of Vigor, but obviously their hand was built around a fast 1 ring, which they got, but wasn't good enough here. And yeah, I mean, their hand was fine. Like this is a very real hand of Amulet Titan that we are beating. It did line up well against our draw, but like this match felt much more winnable. Like even if we were playing a more kind of standard version of Lantern, like our first Pithing Needle doesn't usually go on the ring. Like if this was their hand, like we're likely Thought Seizing, Force of Vigor. We're putting Needle on the ring in this scenario, but then they're getting their prime times, and I mean they are kind of reliant on drawing a bounce land. But like this deck, when it goes off, just kind of is able to go bigger, which I think is able to let it do better against a deck like Amulet Titan. Unfortunately here we do see one downside to the Stone Brain, where any cards we exile from their hand they get to draw replacements of. If you have Lantern out, you will get to see what they draw, but you can't interact with what they draw. So they do get one kind of draw that gets forced through, and it happened to be a Boseiju here. It won't really matter, we're already so far ahead this game. However, it is something to note when you're playing the Stone Brain, and it's often why lists elect to play Necromentia, as the downside of Necromentia is just 2/2s, which Ensnaring Bridge takes care of. And so here we play the second Karn. We know, based on their hand, they have Force of Vigor and Summoner's Pact. I do find it a bit interesting that they don't elect to go for Force Pitch Pact here, taking out Bridge and Coating. I would think they would want to take out the Coating specifically pretty soon, but I guess they didn't want to have it. They elect to concede there. Obviously, from this position, like you can just recycle Karn plus Stone Brain. That is one upside to Stone Brain, where I mean, if you just are casting the Stone Brain every turn, removing all of their win cons, then you're gonna win anyway. So we could Stone Brain, remove all the creatures from their deck, and then just kind of sit back and do nothing for the rest of the game. Yeah, this deck obviously is able to go big, kind of match Amulet Titan in that respect, and I think it is an interesting angle of attack. Overall, still weaker than traditional Lantern versions. However, against Amulet Titan specifically, I actually do think it has a leg up over most of the other options available. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back tomorrow with another game.